To be or not to be performed is what the poem said to the poet, when in fact poems were meant to be spoken out loud to an audience.
Spoken in a way the music of the language can be heard in the same way we now listen to modern music. Poetry lifted from the page, expressed by a performant poet, gives the poems wings to speak, engaging the listener and activating their imaginative minds to interact with the images, tones, and rhythm of the spoken poem. The art and application of spoken word poetry has been an engaging artistic and social tool since the first storytellers of humankind. They told their triumphs, social codes, and history of their cultural tribes, from the griots in West Africa to the minstrels of Europe, to the seers of South America, to the dogen from Japan, to the great bards of the old.
The spoken poet has been the original singer of verse, using rhythm, meter, cadence, and aesthetic tones of the human voice to entertain, educate, and inform the people for centuries. In our modern times, the power of technology and its use of dynamic sound, colorful images, and animated translations has entranced most of us into looking into a one-way medium.
The revitalization of the original multi-medium spoken word poetry brings us back together into interactive call-response environments, fully alive to engage us back into the true educational playgrounds we need to accomplish our goals of total involvement in information and content that is essential to survive in the 21st century. In the late 80s, a construction worker named Mark Smith in Chicago, he discovered this ancient impulse when he was challenged with putting forth a poetry reading in an environment where he had to compete with television broadcasts of sporting events. He took the opportunity to put performance back into poetry, allowed the poets to use the same powerful tools that the television used of dynamic projection of sound images and tone and color in their voices, giving birth to the famed Poetry Slam.
Today, in almost every major city or active community, there is a poetry slam, a competitive arena for poets to express their poetry, rebirth into performance poetry and the art of the spoken poem back into 21st century America.
As William Shakespeare once asked, to be or not to be, we say to be or not to be spoken is not a question. It is our human nature to speak to one another, entertain one another, and educate each other in a way that is natural to our living beings.